It was the spring of 2022, a normal Tuesday afternoon in California. I was in my classroom grading papers while my 10th graders worked on a group project. The sun was coming through the blinds, dust floating in the light, the usual after-lunch tiredness in the air. Then we heard it. Pop, pop, pop. At first, I thought it was construction work from across the street. The school was surrounded by old buildings, so hearing loud bangs wasn't exactly strange. But the third sound was different. It echoed, sharp, hollow, and followed by screams. My stomach dropped. Before I could even process it, the intercom buzzed. This is a lockdown. Repeat, this is a lockdown. Lock your doors immediately. The entire room went silent for about 2 seconds, and then chaos erupted. The lockdown. Repeat. Chairs scraped. Someone started crying. A boy dropped his phone. I ran to the door, locked it, and turned off the lights. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely slide the lock in place. I told everyone to get down, stay quiet, and move away from the windows. The only light now was the thin orange glow leaking through the blinds. You could hear the sirens starting in the distance, faint at first, then getting louder. That's when one of my students, Evan, whispered, "There's someone outside." I turned toward the window, and through the narrow opening between the blinds, I saw movement, a person staggering across the street. It was a man. His white shirt was soaked in blood. He stumbled toward the school fence, clutching his stomach. I could see him pressing a hand against a wound, dragging himself step by step, leaving a dark trail behind. The class gasped. Someone started whispering prayers, and then he looked up, directly toward our window. His mouth opened like he was shouting something, but we couldn't hear through the glass. He started running toward the school. I froze. The intercom crackled again. "The suspect is still at large. Stay inside. Do not open doors for anyone." I remember that line word for word because it made my heart drop. If the suspect was still at large, who was the man running toward our building? Seconds later, we heard pounding, bang, bang, coming from somewhere near the main hallway. The students screamed quietly, covering their mouths. Someone's phone started vibrating, and I had to whisper harshly, "Turn it off." And then, in the dark, I noticed movement to my right. Evan, that same student, was trying to open the window. "Evan, what are you doing?" I hissed. He whispered, almost laughing, "I want to see what's going on. This is insane." I couldn't believe it. He was grinning like it was a YouTube prank, his hands shaking with adrenaline. Before I could stop him, he unlatched the window. A gust of cool air rushed in, carrying the sound of sirens and someone yelling outside. I grabbed his arm and yanked him back, whispering furiously, "Do you want to get shot? Sit down." He resisted for a second, then looked at me, and that's when we both froze. Because standing right outside the window, maybe 10 feet away, was the same blood-soaked man. He was leaning against the wall, breathing heavily, eyes wild and unfocused. I swear for 1 second he made eye contact with me. Then his gaze flicked to Evan, and he smiled. It wasn't a normal smile. It was crooked, strained, like his face didn't remember how to do it properly. Then he lifted his hand and smeared blood across the window glass before stumbling away out of view. Evan sat down immediately. Nobody said a word. For the next 10 minutes, we just waited in the dark, shaking, listening to the echo of footsteps and the muffled shouting of police outside. Eventually, there was a voice on the intercom again. "All clear. Police have secured the area. Do not exit the classrooms until an officer arrives at your door." When the SWAT team finally opened our door, the first thing I noticed was the blood trail. It went all the way down the hallway toward the gym. They said later that the man we saw was actually the victim of the shooting across the street. He had tried to run to the school for help, but collapsed before reaching the nurse's office. He didn't make it. And as for the shooter, they caught him 2 blocks away, sitting calmly on a park bench, gun still in his hand. But there's one thing I can't shake off even now. The police told me that when they reviewed the security footage, the victim never looked toward our classroom window. Not once. He never turned his head that way at all. So whoever or whatever smiled at us that day. It wasn't him. This happened last fall at a high school just outside Redding, California. I was a senior then, just a regular student counting down the weeks to graduation. It was October, the kind of California fall where the mornings start. The air smells like rain-soaked dirt, and the trees outside the cafeteria drop those orange leaves that stick to your shoes. Lunch period always had this calm golden hour vibe. Everyone outside, laughing, trading snacks, music playing from someone's Bluetooth speaker. It was one of those rare days where everything felt peaceful, but peace doesn't last long. I still remember what triggered it, one single sound that didn't belong. I was sitting with two friends near the cafeteria windows talking about a football game. The cafeteria smelled like pizza and disinfectant, that weird mix every school has. Outside, the wind kept blowing leaves across the courtyard, and the sky looked dim, like it was about to rain. Then I heard it. A loud pop. At first, everyone laughed. Someone joked that it was a car backfiring on the street. But a few seconds later, there was another pop, louder, sharper. This time, it came from the direction of the parking lot. Then came the screaming. It spread like wildfire from one end of the campus to the other. Chairs screeched, trays hit the floor, and people started running in every direction. Before anyone could figure out what was happening, the voice came over the intercom. Lockdown. There should be no activity. Repeat, no work. The teachers started yelling for everyone to get down. The cafeteria doors slammed shut. Someone turned off the lights, and in an instant, the big room that had been full of chatter went completely silent. We hid under tables, trying not to breathe too loud. The only sounds were people whispering prayers and the faint buzzing of the vending machine. Then came the sound of heavy footsteps outside the cafeteria, slow, deliberate, moving closer. And then, bang. The first gunshot hit the metal door. The sound was so loud it echoed off the tile floors. Someone screamed, someone else started sobbing. Another shot hit the door again, a sharp metallic clang that made everyone flinch. Then, silence. For a few seconds I thought maybe he'd left. But then there was movement. A handle on the cafeteria door jiggled. Someone was trying to open it. We all froze. The door didn't move. It was locked, but whoever was out there didn't stop. They started kicking it, over and over. Every thud made my heart pound harder. The air smelled like dust and sweat. The girl hiding next to me whispered, "Please stop, please stop." Then suddenly the kick stopped. From the other side of the door came a voice, a man's voice, calm and low. "You think the door will save you?" No one said a word. Then he fired again, 3 shots this time. The bullets didn't break through the door, but one shattered the glass window above it. We could hear the shards hitting the floor. And then, just as fast as it began, it went quiet again. Only the distant wail of police sirens cut through the silence. Minutes later, though it felt like hours, the police burst in from the side entrance. They yelled for everyone to stay down, then moved in formation toward the front doors. The gunman had already fled. He'd fired at the cafeteria, then ran toward the neighboring middle school before being cornered and arrested. Only one student had been injured, a boy who got grazed by a bullet near the courtyard. Everyone else was shaken, but alive. In the days that followed, the school tried to return to normal, new security fences, more officers, assemblies about trauma and safety. But that sense of calm never came back. Even now, a year later, I can't eat in a crowded cafeteria. Every time someone drops a tray or slams a locker, I freeze. But the part that still keeps me up at night was something that happened 2 weeks after the lockdown. I was walking home one evening, late October again. The air smelled like burning leaves, and the sun was setting behind the trees. As I passed the school gates, I noticed something scratched into the metal cafeteria door, right near the bullet marks. It said, "The door didn't save you." I did. I never found out who carved it. But every fall, when the leaves start to turn and that same chill hits the air, I can still hear that voice outside the cafeteria saying, You think the door will save you? Sometimes the scariest thing isn't the person with the weapon, it's the reminder they were real, and that they might still be out there, watching the same doors you walk past every day. This happened about 6 months ago, late October, when the air had that crisp, smoky scent that only fall evenings bring. My name's Daniel, and at the time, I was still teaching English at Ridgeway High School in Cedar Falls, Ohio. It is one of those quiet suburban schools surrounded by oak trees that always seem to be shedding leaves faster than the janitors can sweep them. That morning had been peaceful. The hallways smelled faintly of pumpkin spice coffee. The sound of crunching leaves followed every student rushing in, and the sun was setting earlier each day, giving the classrooms that dim, amber glow by the last period. Everything felt calm, normal, but that calm didn't last long, because by 2:14 p.m. we were in a real lockdown, and what I saw that day honestly made me lose faith in the system and in how people react when they think they're safe. Now, to understand how weird it got, you have to know the setup. My classroom was in the west wing, right next to Mrs. Ellison's room, which had a giant wall made of frosted glass. It was meant to let in natural light, according to the architect. But all it really did was make everyone paranoid during lockdowns. You could never tell if someone was just walking by in the hall or standing there watching. It was a little after lunch when the intercom crackled. Attention staff and students, this is not a drill. We are on lockdown. Repeat, this is not a drill. Those words hit harder than you'd think. You could almost hear the temperature drop in the room. A few kids gasped, a few froze, and one started nervously laughing until he realized nobody else was. The middle school just 2 blocks away had reported a possible armed threat. Someone seen walking near campus with what looked like a weapon. We didn't know if it was a hoax, but the district protocol meant all nearby schools, including ours, had to lock down. I locked both classroom doors, turned off the lights, and herded everyone into the corner farthest from the glass wall. My heart was pounding, but I kept my voice calm. Phone silent. Stay quiet. Don't move unless I tell you to. Meanwhile, the class next door, Mrs. Ellison's, started filing into my room because of that stupid see-through wall. As they slipped in, I noticed some were grinning, like this was some kind of thrill. That's when things started getting off. One kid, Kyle, pulled out his phone and started playing Clash of Clans at full volume. I hissed at him to turn it off, and he just whispered, "Relax, Mr. D, it's probably fake." Then another kid, I swear this is true, started moaning loudly. On purpose, trying to make the others laugh. It echoed through the silent room like something out of a nightmare. I remember standing there, frozen between fury and fear. Because what if someone was actually in the hallway listening? I crawled toward the door, staying low, and peeked through the little slit of glass. The hallway lights were dim. Most had motion sensors, so they flickered faintly when no one moved. But for just a split second, I saw a shadow. It was tall, too tall to be one of our students, and it moved slowly like someone pacing back and forth. I couldn't tell if it was a reflection or a real person, but my stomach dropped. I whispered for everyone to stay silent. That's when the same kid, Kyle again, started giggling. Loudly, I swear, I could have strangled him right there. But then something happened that shut everyone up instantly. There was a soft knock on the glass wall. 3 slow taps. Tap, tap, tap. Every single head in that room turned toward the sound. But because of the frosted glass, we couldn't see who or what it was. Then another knock. Louder this time, tap, tap, tap. Someone whispered, "Is that the police?" But my gut told me it wasn't. The knock stopped. For a full minute, there was silence. You could hear someone's breath shaking in the dark. And then the faintest sound, footsteps, moving away down the hallway. 5 minutes later, the lockdown was lifted. They told us later that the threat turned out to be a false alarm, a parent walking near the middle school with a baseball bat. No one was hurt. It was all just a misunderstanding, but here's what still bothers me. When we opened the classroom door, there were handprints on the frosted glass wall. Big ones, adult-sized, smeared downward, as if someone had leaned against it, watching us from the other side. Security swore no one was in the building. The cameras didn't show anyone in our wing, so whoever or whatever knocked on that glass was never found. And every time I walk past that classroom now, especially when the wind howls through the trees and the autumn light flickers just right, I still see the faint outline of those handprints, like the glass remembers what we try to forget. Lockdowns are supposed to make us feel safe, but what if sometimes they trap us with something we can't explain? If you've ever been in a lockdown that felt off, where something just didn't add up, I want to hear it. Because stories like these aren't just rumors, they're warnings. Stay alert, stay quiet. And remember, the scariest thing isn't what's outside the classroom, it's what might already be inside.